Have you ever noticed how suddenly a man can change? One day he's texting you first, making you laugh, asking how you slept, and making you feel like you're the only woman in the world. And then, silence. No explanation, no fight, no closure, just distance. He stops replying as fast. He becomes colder, and you start asking yourself what you did wrong. But here's the truth most women don't realize. When a man starts ignoring you, it's not random. It's not because he forgot about you or because he stopped caring overnight. It's because two deep psychological triggers inside his mind have been activated. And once they are, he starts to behave in ways even he doesn't fully understand. At first, you might try to reach out, send a message, call him, maybe even post something hoping he'll notice. You start replaying every moment, every conversation, looking for clues. You ask yourself, did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Did he lose interest? But the truth is, what's happening inside his head has very little to do with what you said, and everything to do with how he feels when he's around you. Because here's something most women never get told. Men are not afraid of losing women who chase them. They're afraid of feeling something real that they can't control. And when that happens, they retreat. They go silent. They act like they don't care, but deep down they're trying to protect themselves from emotions they were never taught to handle. You see, men are conditioned from a young age to believe that vulnerability is weakness. To show emotion is to lose control. So when a man starts to care too much, when he feels that his emotions are getting stronger than his logic, his mind automatically triggers a defense mechanism. And that's when you start to notice the silence, the coldness, the distance. He might stop initiating conversations, delay his replies, or act indifferent when you talk to him. But that's not indifference. It's confusion. Because a part of him is drawn to you, and another part is terrified of what that connection means. It's not about you being too much. It's about him feeling something that shakes the walls he's spent his entire life building. And the moment those two secret triggers in his mind are activated, he enters a silent battle. Not with you, but with himself. That's why you can't take his distance personally. It's not rejection, it's reaction. It's his mind trying to regain control. But here's where most women make a mistake. They try to fix the silence by chasing, explaining, or demanding clarity. And every time they do, they unknowingly push him further away. Because men don't respond to pressure, they respond to space. They don't open up when you ask them to. They open up when they feel safe enough to do it. And the irony is that your silence, your calmness, your ability to stay grounded while he withdraws, that's exactly what draws him back. So before you blame yourself for his distance, understand this. His silence has meaning. It's a language of its own, one that reveals what's going on inside his mind, if you know how to read it. Because the truth is, when a man ignores you, he's not in control. He's reacting to a storm that's happening inside him. And once you learn what those two secret triggers are, once you understand why they make him pull away, you'll stop taking his silence as rejection and start seeing it for what it really is. A sign that something deep inside him has already shifted. Let me tell you a story that perfectly illustrates what happens inside a man's mind when those two hidden triggers are activated. There was a woman named Laura, confident, warm, and naturally magnetic. She met Daniel at a friend's birthday dinner. From the very first moment, the connection between them was undeniable. They talked for hours, laughed effortlessly, and when the night ended, he asked for her number almost shyly, like a teenager rediscovering excitement. The next few weeks were perfect. He texted her every morning. He planned dates, made her feel special, and even opened up about personal things he had never told anyone. Laura thought, this feels real, and it was. But then, almost overnight, something changed. The good morning texts stopped. The calls became shorter. He started canceling plans with vague excuses. Work's been crazy, or I just need some time to think. At first, Laura didn't panic. She thought maybe he was just busy, maybe he needed space. But as the days turned into weeks, she started to feel the anxiety creeping in. That heavy silence became unbearable. She scrolled through their old messages, trying to understand what had gone wrong. She replayed every detail, wondering if she'd said too much or seemed too interested. So one night she sent him a message. Hey, I feel like something changed. Did I do something wrong? No reply. The next day, still nothing. And that silence hit her harder than any argument could. Because it wasn't just that he wasn't talking, it was that he seemed completely disconnected, like the version of him she knew had vanished. What Laura didn't know is that something had shifted inside Daniel's mind. Something that had nothing to do with her words or her actions. It was those two secret triggers that had quietly switched on, without warning. The first one made him feel vulnerable. The second one made him feel powerless. And together, they created a wall he couldn't explain. For weeks, he tried to distract himself. He told himself he wasn't ready for something serious. He tried to convince himself that maybe Laura was too good, that maybe it wasn't the right time. But deep down, he wasn't avoiding her. He was avoiding the emotions she awakened in him. Because for the first time in years, he felt something real, and real scared him. Real meant losing control. Real meant risking being hurt. And Daniel had built his entire life around never feeling that again. You see, before meeting Laura, Daniel had been in a relationship that broke him. The kind of relationship that leaves scars no one sees. He was betrayed by someone he trusted, and since then, he promised himself never to fall that deep again. He dated other women, kept things casual, stayed in control. He told himself that was strength, that not needing anyone meant he was safe. But when he met Laura, that illusion started to crumble. She made him laugh again. She made him feel seen, appreciated, understood. And that's exactly when his mind hit the emergency brake. His silence wasn't about losing interest. It was about fear. Fear of repeating the same pain. Fear of being vulnerable again. And because he didn't have the emotional tools to process those feelings, he did what men are conditioned to do. He pulled away. From the outside, it looked like he didn't care. But inside, he was in conflict. He would check her profile late at night. He would think about calling her, then stop himself. He would read her last message over and over again and still not reply. Because replying meant confronting the truth, that someone had managed to touch the part of him he swore no one would reach again. Laura, on the other hand, kept wondering if she was too much, too emotional, too direct, too available. But what she didn't understand was that Daniel wasn't reacting to her, he was reacting to himself. Her presence simply awakened what he had been running from, and that's why his silence wasn't punishment. It was a sign that she had reached the deepest layer of his mind, where those two powerful triggers live. This story isn't unique. It happens to countless women who cross paths with men that seem emotionally unavailable. Men who say they're not ready, or that they need time, when in reality, they're battling invisible fears. And unless you understand what those fears truly are, you'll keep thinking his distance means you're not enough, when in fact, it means you've affected him more than you realize. Because when those two secret mechanisms get activated inside a man's mind, he doesn't ghost you out of boredom. He disappears because he feels something so strong it terrifies him. And the only way he knows how to deal with that emotion is by running from it. Now that you've seen how Daniel's behavior changed, let's go deeper into what really happens inside a man's mind when he begins to ignore you. Because this is where everything becomes clear. The silence, the distance, the mixed signals. It all starts with two powerful emotional mechanisms that every man carries within him, even if he has no idea they exist. The first secret is something called the vulnerability resistance. It's an unconscious defense system that activates the moment a man starts to feel emotionally exposed. From a young age, most men are taught that showing emotion equals weakness. They grow up hearing phrases like, man up, don't cry, stay strong. So when he starts feeling something deep for a woman, when he begins to actually care, his mind sends a warning signal. You're losing control. That's when the first trigger flips on. You'll notice it through subtle shifts. He becomes distant, slower to reply, less affectionate. He tells you he's busy, but somehow he's online, active, posting, living his life, just not with you. And that's what confuses you the most, right? Because you think, if he's losing interest, why does he still watch my stories? Why does he still look at my profile? The answer is simple. He's torn between two instincts, one that wants to connect, and one that's terrified to. The second one usually wins, at least for a while. When the vulnerability resistance takes over, he starts to associate you with emotional risk. You become the mirror that reflects parts of him he doesn't want to see. His fears, his insecurities, his longing for something real. He feels like he's losing power, like his emotions are dictating his behavior instead of logic. And since most men are addicted to control, his reaction is to retreat. He doesn't know how to process the intensity, so he tries to numb it. Ignoring you becomes his way of regaining balance, or so he thinks. But then, the second secret activates. And this is where everything becomes even more complicated. It's called the emotional re-evaluation instinct. This one is deeply rooted in male psychology, and it's often misunderstood by women. When a man feels emotionally triggered, when he starts caring more than he planned, his mind automatically begins to analyze you, not out of logic, but out of fear. He starts questioning, am I sure about her? Is she the kind of woman I can trust? What if she hurts me like the last one did? What if I'm the one falling harder? This isn't rational thinking, it's self-protection disguised as reasoning. He begins to pick at details that didn't matter before. The way you text, how often you reply, whether you've liked another man's photo. He starts overthinking, trying to find reasons to justify the emotional distance he already feels. Because deep down, he's scared that what he feels for you will end up controlling him. And that's the second secret most women never notice. When a man ignores you, he's not testing you, he's testing himself. He's trying to prove that he can pull away, that he can detach, that he's not completely under your influence. Because if he realizes he is, it challenges everything he believes about his identity, his strength, his control. That's why men often go silent right when things seem to be going great. It's not the end. It's his inner resistance kicking in. The irony is that his silence doesn't come from a lack of care. It comes from too much. He's trying to calm emotions he can't label. He's trying to slow down something that feels too fast, too intense, too real. So instead of talking, instead of being honest about the confusion, he withdraws. He tells himself he needs space. He convinces himself he's not ready. He starts believing that you deserve someone better. But what he's really saying is, I don't know how to handle how much I feel for you. And here's what's even more interesting. During this phase, a man will often watch from a distance. He'll keep an eye on you without letting you know. He'll notice if you post something, if you seem sad, or if you've moved on. He'll even feel a strange mixture of relief and jealousy if he thinks someone else is giving you attention, because that's how his emotional reevaluation works. He wants to feel like he's in control, even when his heart clearly isn't. This is why ignoring you becomes his paradox. It's not that he doesn't want you, it's that he doesn't know how to want you without feeling exposed. So he hides behind silence, pretending he's detached, when in reality, he's never thought about you more than he does in those moments. That's what no one tells you. His distance is not the absence of emotion, it's the overflow of it. And the more he tries to suppress it, the stronger it becomes. That's why some men come back weeks or months later, acting as if nothing happened. It's because time didn't make him forget. Time only made him realize that the silence didn't heal what he was trying to avoid. He might not say it out loud, but he feels the emotional pull you created. That's why he'll suddenly reappear with a message like, hey, how have you been? Or, I was just thinking about you. Because deep down, he never stopped. He just couldn't face what those feelings revealed about himself. So when you understand these two secrets, the vulnerability resistance and the emotional reevaluation instinct, everything about his behavior starts to make sense. You stop taking his silence as rejection and start seeing it as a reflection of his inner conflict. You realize it's not that you weren't enough, it's that you were too real for a man who's used to emotional control, and your presence awakened something he didn't know how to handle. That's why silence is so powerful. Because in that space, his mind and heart are at war. Part of him wants to protect himself. The other part misses you in ways he can't explain. And every time he tries to convince himself he doesn't care, his subconscious reminds him that he does, more than he wants to admit. So when a man ignores you, don't assume he's moved on. Most of the time, he's just caught between two truths: his desire to stay safe and his fear of losing something real. And until he learns to face those two secret triggers, silence will always be his way of speaking the words he's too afraid to say. Now that you know the two secret triggers that make a man ignore you, let's talk about what happens next. Because this is where most women lose their power without even realizing it. When a man pulls away, every instinct inside you wants to close the distance. You want answers, closure, clarity. You want to fix what feels broken, but that's exactly what his subconscious expects. And it's also what reinforces his resistance. See, when a woman reacts emotionally to a man's silence, his mind interprets it as pressure, and pressure is the one thing his defenses can't handle. If you send long messages trying to explain how you feel or ask why he's changed, you're unknowingly confirming his biggest fear, that emotions will take control. And the moment he senses that, his first instinct is to run further. He doesn't process your words the way you intend. When you say, "I just want to understand," he hears, "You're losing control." When you say, "I miss you," he hears, "I need you." And that need triggers something uncomfortable for him, because men are wired to value independence, not emotional dependence. Even if he misses you, even if he cares deeply, he needs to feel that he's choosing you, not being pulled back to you. This is where the urgency comes in. If you react to his silence with anxiety, you feed the very mechanism that made him withdraw in the first place. But if you do the opposite, if you stay calm, grounded, and unbothered, you activate something entirely different inside him. You trigger curiosity. He starts to wonder, why isn't she chasing me? Why isn't she trying to fix it? Why does she seem fine without me? And that question begins to dismantle his defenses one by one, because when a man realizes he no longer controls your emotions, the power dynamic shifts instantly. His silence no longer gives him comfort, it gives him discomfort. He starts to feel the distance he created, and it doesn't feel safe anymore. It feels empty. He begins to miss your energy, your presence, your voice. And that's when he starts to feel the consequences of his own withdrawal. Every man who's ever ignored a woman has faced that moment. The night he opens his phone and scrolls through old messages, fighting the urge to text. The night he realizes that your absence feels louder than your words ever did. The night he starts to wonder if you finally moved on. And that's when the second wave of panic hits. Because now his silence is no longer power. It's punishment. Not from you, but from his own mind. That's why staying silent is not weakness. It's strategy. It's the emotional mirror that forces him to face what he's been avoiding. Because silence, when used with strength, becomes louder than confrontation. It's the sound of your self-respect. And men, even the most guarded ones, are drawn to that energy like magnets. But let's be honest, it's not easy to stay calm when someone you care about starts to ignore you. Your mind begins to spiral. You wonder if he's with someone else, if he's lost interest, if it's over. That's when your emotions start screaming for action, to call, to text, to demand clarity. But here's the truth. Every time you reach out to someone who's pulling away, you teach them that your emotions are negotiable. You teach them that they can disappear, and you'll be the one to close the gap. And once that pattern starts, it becomes almost impossible to break. Men learn through experience, not words. So when you remain calm, when you stop chasing, when you give him silence instead of reaction, he starts to feel what it's like to lose your emotional presence. He feels the space. He feels the absence of your warmth, your attention, your validation. And that discomfort becomes the trigger that reverses the dynamic. In that space, something fascinating happens inside his mind. The same mechanisms that once pushed him away begin to pull him back. The vulnerability resistance weakens because your calmness shows him safety, not chaos. The emotional reevaluation shifts because your silence makes him see your worth instead of questioning it. And the longer you stay composed, the louder his own thoughts become. He starts to realize that what he thought was freedom feels more like loss. That's the consequence he never expected. Because deep down, men expect women to react, to seek closure, to chase, to prove care. But when you don't, when you stay centered and let his silence echo back to him, it forces reflection. It forces him to face the truth. He wasn't ignoring you because you weren't enough. He was ignoring you because you made him feel too much. And the moment he realizes you're strong enough to walk away, his control starts to crumble. So the urgency here isn't about chasing him. It's about mastering your emotional reaction. Because the way you respond to his silence determines everything that happens next. If you chase, he runs. If you question, he defends. But if you stay quiet, not out of pride but out of peace, his mind eventually breaks the silence for you. And when he does, it won't be because you begged for attention. It'll be because your absence made him realize what your presence truly meant. That's when his messages come back. That's when he starts remembering the small things, your laugh, your energy, the comfort of your presence. But by then, the question won't be whether he misses you. It'll be whether you still want to answer. At some point, every woman faces that moment, when the man she thought cared suddenly grows distant, when the connection that felt so real starts to fade into silence, and she stands there, torn between reaching out and walking away. But here's what you must understand. How you handle that silence defines everything, because it's not the silence itself that hurts you, it's what you do with it. When a man ignores you, Your mind immediately tries to fill in the gaps. It whispers that you weren't enough, that maybe you cared too much, or loved too deeply. But that's not the truth. The truth is, his silence has nothing to do with your worth. It has everything to do with his fear. Those two secret triggers, the resistance to vulnerability and the instinct for emotional reevaluation, are not a reflection of your flaws. They're a reflection of his own emotional limitations. You can't heal a man who refuses to face himself. You can't teach someone to value your presence if he only notices it in your absence. But you can decide not to play the same game twice. You can choose silence not as punishment but as protection, because silence, when it comes from peace and self-respect, speaks louder than any message ever could. And here's what makes it powerful. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop begging for clarity, when you simply stop chasing, something shifts. The energy changes. You go from being the one who needs answers to being the one who holds them. And that's when men begin to notice. That's when they start realizing what they've lost. Because nothing confuses a man more than a woman who no longer needs his attention to validate her worth. So instead of asking why he's ignoring you, start asking yourself something else. Why am I allowing his silence to define how I feel about myself? Because the moment you stop internalizing his withdrawal, you regain control of your story. You start operating from a place of calm confidence instead of emotional reaction. And that's when the silence stops being a threat. It becomes your advantage. Every man who ever ignored you taught you something valuable. Not about love, but about strength. He showed you that the real power isn't in chasing, it's in choosing yourself. Because the truth is, no man can ignore a woman who is at peace with her own worth. He can try to distance himself, but eventually, your calm presence will haunt his thoughts. Your silence will replay in his mind louder than any words he ever said. And one day when he realizes that you didn't chase him, that you didn't collapse, that you didn't beg, that's when it will hit him. You were the woman he couldn't break. You were the one who understood him deeper than he understood himself. And that realization will echo long after his messages stop coming. So don't rush to fill the silence. Let it speak. Let it show you who he really is. Because a man's silence will always reveal what his words try to hide. And when you learn to see it that way, you'll stop fearing distance. You'll start mastering it. Remember this: the strongest response you can ever give to a man who ignores you is not anger, not revenge, not explanation. It's quiet confidence. Because real attraction doesn't grow from noise. It grows from mystery, composure, and emotional strength. And when you embody that, you stop chasing love that drains you and start attracting love that respects you. So if he's ignoring you right now, don't break your peace trying to be understood. Keep your silence. Keep your dignity. Because what he doesn't realize yet is that your absence is the loudest lesson he'll ever learn. And the day he finally understands it will be the day he realizes he lost someone rare, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally started caring about herself.